Welcome to America's Policy Podcast. I wanted to go over the process of making policy changes, as I think it'll be good to educate people on the process of getting a certain policy or law changed. And every state has their own way of handling their legislature, but I'm just going to go, for example, and show everyone New Jersey. So hopefully you can see my screen. So every state's going to have a ledge website, and it's going to look a little bit different depending on your state. But the website is pretty much going to look like this, right? You'll have your search by bills, you'll have your find your legislator, and I am sure other states are similar. And the first step, if you're having an issue, is to find out who your representative is. Now, you could do this in a couple different ways, but I'm just going to start off by showing find your legislator, right? You're going to go either you can go by your district map, put in your house address, and find out what district you're in. Now, New Jersey, you could see how it's broken down by district. And I think there's 30, right? I think 30, no, 39. It looks like legislative districts. So what you do is, and every district is going to have their representative. So you're going to have your Senate member and you're going to have your assembly members. And when you put your address in, you'll be able to find who your representative is. And this is important because usually when you're having an issue, the first step is to contact your legislator. You hear this all the time, contact your legislator. And this is how you find your legislator. Now, depending on what state you're in, every state's going to have their own website. So what you need to do is you need to first find out who your representative is. And this is either by your district, or if you go back to the home page, you could also look at by district list. So you would just look for your town, typical control F. You could put in your town, Wayne, for example, District 40, which is Bergen, Essex, and Passaic counties. Then you hit the district, and then you could find out who your representatives are. Or if you're not sure your district or town, this is how you find out where you fall in this category. So there's two different ways. So your first step is go on NJ Ledge. This is the website, NJ Ledge. And you find your legislator either by district map. Click any of the districts or wherever you like, and you'll be able to see. So you just type in your address. Let's just try to see. I don't know if 123 Main Street. Let's just hear 123 Main Ave, Ocean Grove. And it's coming up District 25. I want to make sure that's correct. Let's try something else. 1, 2, 4. Let's see. 12. No. West. Saddlebrook. Okay, well, you actually have to put your address in. So you get the idea. Let me just try to find again. Let's click out of the district. 23 Main Street, Avon by the Sea. There we go. So this is a good example. I didn't want to put anyone's actual address. So 123 Main Street, Avon by the Sea. Now you can pull it up right here. Now you can click it. You know your District 30. So District 30 includes all this area. And if you click it, you could see who your senator is, and who your 2 assembly members are, right? So that's one way. And then the other way is go back to the home page and find your legislator, but it's also by the district list. You could just look for your town or your county, but just be careful when you're looking for your county. Some counties are divided in a couple different districts. So you just want to make sure you find your specific town that you live in. And that is the town that you vote in. So make sure that is very important, that it's not somewhere that you're not registered to vote. So you want to be to reach out to your representative in the town that you're voting in. And if you're looking through it, quick way of looking, Control F, just put West Orange. There we go. District 27, which includes Essex and Passaic counties. Click District 27, and then these are your representatives. Okay, so that's how you find your legislators. So anytime, let me just see if there's a current roster. The current roster is just giving everyone an office. This helps usually as a second step when you have to try to reach out to multiple members to get a bill addressed or an issue addressed. But your first step is always your representative. Now that is similar to any state you're in. So if you have whatever state you are, just look for your legislative website, find your district, and then find your representatives. And those people are your first people to contact when you have a policy issue. Now, another item that you might want to look at is you have two schedules, right? You have the Senate schedule and the Assembly schedule here. Now, this is important because this is when bills are discussed or introduced. So, for example, if you know that the Senate is scheduled, March 24th. Let me give you an example. So Monday, March 24th, 11 o'clock in the morning is the Senate session. Voting session, board list to be announced. So you'll know exactly what bills are being discussed, which bills are introduced, and what bills are being voted on. And that is based on your schedule. So you're going to have your Senate schedule and your Assembly schedule. And they both work a little bit differently. So let me see can you click on an old one? Let me see. Yes. So here we go. Perfect. So if you go right for an Assembly schedule and you click on Thursday, February 27th as an example, this was an Assembly session that happened already. You could see what bills were discussed, right? This is the bill number. So when you look at bill, and these are the bill numbers, and this is just a summary. So, for example, A3810 requires adoption of policy addressing job-related issues of pregnant firefighters. Now, these are the sponsors. Sponsors are right here. So these are the legislators that are sponsoring these bills. And then the status. And then the date. I'm not sure what the status symbols are. I'll have to do another video on that. I just have to look at it. This is actually website was not recently, but somewhat recently updated. But just so you have an idea that this is something you use once a bill is something that you need to discuss. Maybe there's a bill that's introduced and you need to reach out to your representatives, or you went to an elected official or you went to your representative and said, I have a problem with X, Y, and Z. Can you please look into it? And your first step when you do that is when you are requesting a meeting or when you're requesting to discuss with constituent representative from your legislative office is always have the information. You're going to get more power with being educated when you're requesting something. So, for example, if you are having an issue with some type of mortgage company or some type of policy issue affecting your employment or your town or whatever the case may be, you want to come there with not only with a problem, but you want to go there and educate them, because a lot of times they're not educated in every subject. No human being should be able to be educated in everything. So they're not going to know a lot. Or maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you need to come prepared and you need to come with also solutions and reasonable solutions. I think when you make it easier for them, in my opinion, you have a better chance of making any, opportunity to be able to be heard and opportunity to be able to them to introduce a bill that could have potentially fix your issue. So I think I should actually do a whole podcast on that. So this, I'm going to go back here just so I can finish showing you everything. So, okay, so now we have Senate schedule, Assembly schedule. That's important because if you go to your legislator and they said, okay, let's work on a bill, and then they introduce the bill, you want to follow this. And then at that point, if a bill is introduced, you want to be able to reach out to the other members that are voting on it. So let's see if I can show you committees, right? So again, every state's going to be a little bit different depending where you are. So please look into your legislative website because it's going to give you so much information when you're struggling with everyday problems. And every committee is going to be in a group. So, or every legislator is going to be part of a committee or multiple committees. So I want to show, if you go under a legislative process, you have Senate committees and Assembly committees. So I'm just going to click Senate committees. And it's broken down into topics. So you have budget and appropriations, commerce, economic growth, education. So there's all going to be different types of committees. So your legislator is going to be part of a committee or multiple committees. And that's important because whatever issues affecting you, for example, if it's education, it's going to be it's going to have to be processed through the education committee, for whether it's Senate or Assembly. And that doesn't mean that the legislature can't help you or introduce a bill. It's just that the way that legislation works is that it's divided into categories. So, for example, if you look at Senate education, right? So this is a committee. These are your committee members. So say for you are having an issue with something in the high school or something. Now, I think there is a higher education one. So I think higher education, yes. So higher education and education is separated. So this is something for more like public education, or I would say on K through 12. And once your legislator maybe introduces a bill, or your legislator listens to you and then makes a bill, and then they introduce it to the other members, you're going to have to work very hard to now convince everyone, whether it's in the Assembly or a Senate, to vote for this bill. And that's when you're going to have to start reaching out to other members. So, for example, if you're having an education issue, you're going to have to start reaching out to these Assembly or Senate Assembly members, or Senate members, sorry, and reach out to them. Now you have your committee aides, and this is good with the OLS. This is all good to reach out when you need assistance, or maybe if you need status or kind of guidance. They're your point of contact usually. And when you go up on top, you could see, so you have a Senate and Assembly. Now I want to see if there's here we go, Senate Assembly seating chart. So you could see all the members where they sit. Now, I don't know if every state does this. I hope so. I didn't really look into a lot of states, but you can kind of see where everyone sits. And this is important because when it comes to voting days, you want to know who's going to help you and who's not. And same thing with Senate. Okay, and then you're going to want to be able to, once a bill is introduced, you're going to have to start reaching out to not only committee members, but you're going to have to start reaching out to everyone in the Senate and Assembly, because you're going to have to pass both houses before it goes to the governor. So, and also a lot of it has to do with networking, and I would say advocacy, because having one person complain about an issue is not going to make a huge difference, but there's hundreds of people calling the office and going to the meetings and writing and emailing and calling, etc. That's going to really open the eyes of some legislators. So you not only have to be educated in what you're trying to achieve, but you also have to have a following. And then you have to find those people. I think it's important. You can go to your legislator and complain about an issue, which is good, but the more people, the better. Because then you have an opportunity to convince them to vote yes on the bill. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show in this video is the search bills, right? So bill numbers, if you know the bill number, you put the bill number in here, you could search it that way. And this is just a legislative session, so the year we're in, and then you could search it that way. But for example, since we just looked at the firefighter one, let's see if there's a firefighter one. If you don't have the bill number, or if you don't know if there's a bill being discussed that affects you, you could always look for them first. So maybe if something's affecting you, you don't know if there's any bills up for a vote, look for it first. So then it makes it a lot easier, because then you don't have to meet with your legislator to try to convince them to vote on a bill when there's a bill already up. So let's just look for a certain subject. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. What can we look at? Something a little bit easier to understand, but I don't know. I'm going to do it. Let's do crimes and penalties, right? So let's just search for crimes and penalties. Now, total records, 535 are coming up. Now, you could actually put a little bit more detail. So if you want, you could see if there were approved or absolute veto, conditional veto. You have different options. Last day of action, what dates those were. Or you could put in, besides the subject, you could put in a certain keyword. Or sponsor. If you know your legislator, put their name in and find out if they're doing anything that's affecting you or what you want resolved. So let's see. This one, A172. This seems simple. The School Safety and Security Act establishes penalties for certain criminal acts committed on school property. So identical bill number, all this means, so when you see the A or the S, that just means Assembly and Senate, but it's the same bill. Now they might have different changes, and that's how you usually go back and forth until you find a resolution. So you just click on A172. This is the bill number. This is the session. This is the, I guess, one sentence description. This is identical bill number, just shows you where it is in the Senate. So it's A172 in the Assembly and S1673 in the Senate. These are the primary sponsors. And it was introduced, referred to Assembly. So this is why we're talking about committees before. So refer to Assembly Education Committee. So it was introduced, right? January 9, 2024, and then was referred to the Assembly Education Committee because it falls under the category of education, which, yeah, because I guess it was technically on school property. So that's why they put it on the Education Committee first. And then you could see, if you pull it up, PDF, for example, a lot more information. You could see sponsored by, which members, and what county they're from. And then you could actually read through it. And the key is in the details, right? So it's important that when you read through this line item, I would line item it, because this bill might be, for example, 99% perfect, and then some one sentence randomly in the bill that's essentially going to destroy the bill. So that's an example. But do this first before you reach out to your legislators, because then this kind of makes it a little bit easier for you. Now, this bill has been certified by OS for fiscal note. That's just the process in getting the bill passed. But I think this is just kind of the perfect introduction about making sure or figuring out how to get your issue heard. And every state's going to be different. Well, let me see if I could put, let's see, Florida Leg. Let's see. Okay, I think let me just see for Florida. I think this is it. It looks like it, maybe. Florida State. Yeah, I mean, it's a Gov website. So yeah, so you play around with your state. It looks pretty much find your legislator, and they want you to put your address in. So it's a little bit different. District maps, so you can kind of see it's the same concept. There's just listed a little bit differently. But yes, you could just kind of hit, it's like, I guess, by number, put your address in, and you can find your legislator. So all that is a good first few steps in trying to get a bill passed and trying to get an issue resolved. And I'm going to hopefully make another video about more details about the bill process. But this is always good. So if you have an issue, contact your legislator. I just went over for New Jersey. Hopefully you'll be able to find it in your state. And good luck. And I will see you next week. Oh, and if you want to be interviewed, please reach out, americaspolicypodcast@gmail.com. And I will be looking for people to kind of maybe discuss the policy steps, maybe someone within the office that can explain the in and outs of it. But for now, I think this is a good first start in trying to get some policy issues heard. See you next week.